Start and stream.
All right.
Pat, you're live.
Welcome again to our second public dive. We're finally live to the public. So we did a dive earlier today out on the North Wall, and right now we're diving here at Casuarina Point, right off Don Foster's Dive Centre on the western side of Grand Cayman. We have Emil on camera who's just drastically pointed something out. A turtle!
Hooray, what a start!
So we have Emil on camera who just pointed out this turtle, and we have Lauren on the surface who's going to be very excited about this turtle.
I am very excited. Hi everyone, I'm Lauren all the way from Scotland, and I'm a bit of a fan of turtles. So I can see that this turtle is a hawksbill.
Yes, it is.
And as we get closer, we're hoping that we can actually identify the exact individual for you.
Yeah. So we use the scutes, which are the scales on the side of the face. They're unique in that they are kind of like a fingerprint, so no two are the same. Actually, I think this is Patch. There's quite a large...
No, I think it is shark bait.
Shark bait,
yeah.
sorry, shark bait.
Just need a little close-up of the side of the face before I can confirm that. Is that possible, Emil? So once we see the side of the face, we'll be able to match it with our database and we can confirm which individual this is. Oh, it's really not wanting to give us a look at the side of its face. Yes, this is hawksbill number 4, who is shark bait.
Yes, called shark bait because she has quite a large chunk taken out her backside, which we believe was from a shark attack.
Yes, it's quite an old wound. So we can confirm that this is an adult female hawksbill turtle. We have Dr. Rob asking if turtles get remoras just like sharks do, and yes they do. Probably not the hawksbill species, but the much bigger ones like the loggerhead and the leatherback can often have remoras attached to them as well.
Now I'm kind of spoilt for choice right now because there is a stingray.
Oh no!
This is over here. Do we stay with the turtle? Do we go to the stingray? I don't know.
That is a difficult choice. You make that one, Pat.
I reckon, well, we'll go have a look at... Oh no, this stingray's swimming off pretty fast. Yeah, let's go have a look at it.
So Pat, just quickly, can you tell us how big you would estimate shark bait is from head to tail?
I reckon from head to tail shark bait would be just under a metre, probably about 90 centimetres, so about 3 feet long.
So most likely an adult hawksbill.
Yeah.
The total length of the carapace, which is another word for the shell, if it is above 60 centimetres, then we can normally confirm that it is an adult. The absence of a big fat tail in between her back flippers indicates that she is indeed a female. Now I can't see the stingray yet.
No, it's still off a little way, but it's coming our direction, so we should be able to get a nice look at it. So this will most likely be a southern stingray, which is the most common species here. It's a very iconic species and very famous for Grand Cayman tourism. And I think this one loves the camera because it's just stopped dead still for us.
Perfect, and it looks like it has a bar jack using this opportunity to steal its food as well.
Yes, and 2 porgies as well, porgies.
Oh yeah, it's definitely feeding. So stingrays always feed on the bottom. Their mouth is actually on the underside. So the 2 eyes are on top and the mouth is underneath. So she's swimming along the sandy bottom looking for food. And this is probably an adult southern stingray.
Now they are very closely related to sharks. Sharks and rays are part of the chondrichthyes, which means pretty much that they have a cartilaginous skeleton, which means that their entire skeleton is made of cartilage, just like the substance that's in your nose and your ears.
Yeah, cartilage is much weaker than bone, but it's obviously extremely flexible and it's way more resistant to disease. So if you just look at that stingray's tail, there's actually a pointy barb. So this is a modified dermal denticle, and inside it does actually contain venom. So this is the stingray's method of self-defense to protect itself from predators. So they're not able to actively move that little barb, but they can move their tail when they need to defend themselves. Pat, your luck is on fire today.
What a start! This is incredible, man. Unfortunately for Lauren, she was meant to be doing this dive as well, but because of some issues with her technical side of her spacebar, she couldn't do it. So I'm sorry, Lauren, but this is great for me.
No, I'm happy for you, Pat. Marcy was asking what type of fish was with the stingray. So the black one was a barjack, and it's a really famous opportunistic feeder. So it just follows other fish around, especially stingrays, and just tries to steal some of their food. So have we lost shark bait?
Yes, shark bait has disappeared off into the abyss, unfortunately.
So that was two megafauna we saw there, a hawksbill turtle and a southern stingray.
Yes, everyone is watching along is very lucky. So this is great for our second public dive. I hope you're all as excited as I am. So now we're just going to have a look around this coral bombing. It's a very productive one, I've heard, so hopefully we can find some more cool things.
Yes, so can you just tell us what depth you're at just now, Pat, to give people an indication?
I am at 16 metres, so that would be about 50 feet deep.
I always love your conversions. We work in meters, so it's sometimes a little tricky to convert it. So we do have Kathy Swan asking about reef sharks in the area. So around here, the most common shark we see is the nurse shark, the lazy couch potato of the sea. So with Pat's luck at the minute, you never know, we might come across a nurse shark.
That would be unreal.
So although Sharkbait the turtle has left, we do have lots of questions about turtles. So we should maybe just answer some of them. So it was a hawksbill. Child of the Universe is asking how rare are hawksbills, and in fact they're the most common species around the Grand Cayman Islands. We do also get green turtles and loggerheads around here, but so far in our database we have only sighted hawksbill turtles. So Pat, what is the temperature of the water? Ashley is asking.
So it is
the temperature.
27 degrees centigrade, which is 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
So it's a toasty dive for you.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. The temperature on any given day, you can pretty much guarantee is going to be about 27 or 28 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, centigrade, sorry. So it tends to be very warm every dive, which is great.
And the sun is starting to set here in Grand Cayman, so the afternoon is almost over, so the fish will start coming out to hunt before the sun sets. So we never know what else we might see. So Pat, going back to the stingray, because it was such a special sighting, Child of the Universe had asked how dangerous is a stingray, and Random Person has warned us to be careful of stingrays. So just to clarify, they're not necessarily dangerous, aggressive animals. They will never attack or be aggressive towards you. They do just have this barb, which is just made from cartilage, and it is there purely for self-defense. So as long as you keep your distance from these animals, you should never be harmed.
Now, the stingray is sitting just there, seeing as we're getting some questions, but we have unfortunately run out of the cable, so we'll head back onto the reef. It is, as Lauren said, a pretty active time of the day here on the reef. It's just after 4 p.m. Grand Cayman time, so all the nocturnal animals are starting to gear up for the night.
Pat, Eliopto is asking for an octopus. I think we would all love to see an octopus here at diveLIVE, so keep your eyes open. Octopus are incredible at hiding themselves. They're very difficult to find, but they are more common to see during their mating season. They do come out and the males will seek the females. So it's not their mating season right now, but you never know, we might find one. So are you going to come a little bit shallower?
Yeah, so we're going to head back off this sand patch here and head over to the reef. So the sand patches are quite a good spot to spot megafauna like the stingray and the turtle we just found. But this part of the reef is also really good if you look under and are in things, because there's a lot of species that don't come out that much, like spiny lobsters and moray eels.
Yeah, so you never know what you're going to find. We do have a question from Proud Cat Mama of 2 asking, how does climate change affect the coral reefs? And that's a really interesting question, because the coral reefs are fundamentally made up of little tiny animals. Maybe Emil can take a closer look at one of the corals nearby. You can point at a coral for us, Pat. And you can see all these hard corals are made up of tiny individual animals called coral polyps. And they are incredibly fussy about the environment that they grow in. They do need sunlight, they do need clean, clear water, and they do require a specific range of temperatures. So if the temperature just gets too hot, which is unfortunately happening regularly now from climate change, then we do suffer from coral bleaching. So there's a beautiful coral ahead, I think. Can you find us one, Emil?
What were you looking for, sorry?
Just a coral.
Oh yeah, so we've actually got a great big mountain star coral right here. And this is a really good example because the polyps are really big on this, or the corallites are really big.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So as Pat mentioned, each little circle that you can see there is a living, breathing animal. So this whole structure is a colony of animals all coming together. Doesn't look like an animal, so many people think coral is a rock or maybe even a plant, but it is an animal in the same family as jellyfish and sea anemones. So if the temperatures were to get too hot for too long, the corals would become stressed, and when they're stressed, they expel the little piece of algae that's inside of them when they have a symbiotic relationship. So you can't see this algae, but the animal and algae live together. And basically, the algae makes all the food for the coral through photosynthesis. And when that coral gets stressed, it expels the algae and it turns white. And this is the phenomena that we know as coral bleaching. And this is happening more and more regularly and more frequently across the world due to climate change. So that was a great question. Thank you. And this coral, as Pat mentioned, is a Boulder star coral, and it looks really big, which means it's really old. Coral takes a very, very long time to grow. So the bigger the structure, the older it is. How big would you say this is, Pat?
Well, I would say across it is probably about, maybe even a metre across, and then from top to bottom it would be about 50 centimetres, so about 3, maybe 4 feet across and about 2 foot high.
And Ellie Octo has said her Cheerio coral, and that's correct. It does look like little Cheerios all joined together. I love that.
Now we have a very special fish up ahead of us here. It's a masked hamlet. Now I have never ever seen one of these on the reef, and they're not very frequently sighted.
Oh, how exciting. Can we get a little closer?
Yeah, so Emil's coming up to it now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right ahead of Emil is the masked hamlet. What a beautiful fish.
Called so because they have that beautiful black bar coming down from its eye that looks like a mask.
Well, that's a great find, because normally the hamlets are quite shy for the camera and we haven't seen many to date. So another lucky find.
Oh, and we've got a trumpet fish right here. It is all happening right now.
Pat, it is. So right in front of the camera is a trumpet fish. It's hanging upside down, so the head is facing downwards, and we have it's just turned. And they are called trumpet fish because it looks like a trumpet.
Yes, and they have specialised cells called chromatophores, and these cells contain pigments, and the pigments, depending on how they're orientated, can reflect light differently. So when they change the orientation of these pigments, they can change colours, and they use this to blend in. So you can see this one here is hiding amongst this Gorgonian coral, and they stay extremely still, just like this one's doing now, and change colour to blend in. So you can see this is a kind of a brownie colour, just like the polyps.
Well, that's a perfect explanation, Pat, because Punk and Rock was just asking what kind of animals benefit from coral. So this is a perfect example. A trumpet fish benefits from the coral purely by hiding and disguising itself among it.
Yes, exactly. Animals can benefit from corals in a whole range of ways. As Lauren said, and as this one is doing, they can hide away, but some also use them as a food source as well.
Well, David's actually mentioned that it looks like a straight seahorse, and that's a really great point because it's very closely related to the pipefish and the seahorses, so great spot.
Yeah, so they are all cygnids, spelled S-Y-G-N-A-T-H-I-D-S. And they also include sea dragons as well, which
your favourite.
Yeah, also great.
Well, Lara Moore is asking if there is seahorses here, and there is. We're hearing lots of stories from our dive centre, Don Foster's dive centres, that they are finding seahorses. But our team here haven't been quite so lucky yet to find one. But we will keep looking.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be an epic day when we find a seahorse.
It's going to be my turn for that one, Pat.
Yeah, knowing my luck, I'll get it on this dive.
That was a great moment with the trumpet fish there.
Yeah, so now we're going to head over towards this side. We are on the left-hand side of the reef today, so if you're facing the water from Don Foster's on the western side here of Grand Cayman, we are on the left-hand side of the reef. Okay. So we're going to look around here for some spiny lobsters because they are frequently sighted here.
Well, while you're looking, Sanath has asked, can coral recover from the bleaching? So again, another interesting question going back to what we were talking about. And yes, they actually can. So when corals are bleached, they're not dead. They're just really weak. They've been really stressed and they're not getting the same amount of nutrients. But if the conditions do return to normal, so for example, the temperature drops to the normal temperature again, before about the 6-week mark, then yes, they can recover. They will pick up their relationship with algae again, and they will get strong again. However, if it stays too hot for too long, about 6 to 8 weeks, then the coral unfortunately will die, which is what happened in 2016. There was a global mass bleaching event. Another great question.
Yes, and another great answer. Lauren is quite the coral whiz. So, we are joined again by the Stingray. He's come back.
We can't actually tell if it is a male or female. It's definitely an adult. We know that by the size. But the genitals will be underneath the part that we can't see. But how we do tell is that males will have a pair of claspers. The females won't have any claspers. And this is the same as sharks. So it's just an extension of the pelvic fin. So it's made from cartilage. And it's used to insert into the female to deposit sperm. So that barjack is definitely not leaving the Stingray alone.
No, these barjacks are ferocious when it comes to eating pretty much other things' meals. So they're a scavenger. They will just follow around any type of fish that sifts through the sand, like a hogfish or a goatfish or the stingray that you just saw them, and essentially use them like a metal detector for their food.
Well, I Am Brain did just ask why the fish is following the stingray, and that's why it's trying to steal its food. So when the stingray's on the bottom, the sandy bottom, it is feeding, but it just swam off there, so it's probably finished having its food and it's probably going to rest. So Pat, what's next?
Well, I don't know, and that is the great thing about being here on a reef that's so productive like this. You just never know what's around the corner.
Yeah, some days you have quiet days, and then some days you have extremely lucky days like Pat. So Pat, can we just quickly get an air check from you? It's all going to be very exciting.
Yes. So, I am on 100 bar.
Perfect. That funny sign Pat just made is the symbol for half a tank, which is the 100 bar sign. So we've still got a little time left with us. So people are really impressed with the colour and the visibility, and they can see lots of different things. So Emil, the cameraman, is just hovering over the coral reef there, and right in front of us is one of Pat's favourite, a Gorgonian coral.
Yeah, so these corals are very, very interesting and very, very beautiful. So we can see right now, this one's a great one to look at because it's got these polyps extended. So polyps, as Lauren mentioned earlier, are the individual animals that make up this entire coral colony. Now, what separates Gorgonians from other corals is they have this structure called a coenenchyme. Now, you don't need to remember that, it's a pretty big word, but what this does is actually connects the polyps in a way. So it works like a very primitive vascular system, so they're transporting nutrients and fluids around between the polyps, which is super interesting.
Yeah, it looks incredibly beautiful. And it's very different from the hard coral that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, so the skeleton, well, the whole structure essentially of these Gorgonians comes from an axial skeleton, which is kind of a rod that runs through the body, which is why they branch rather than encrust or anything like other corals. And what happens with this is that they grow kind of outwards. Sorry, I'll just get back from the camera here, getting right in.
Yeah, that was very close.
So they grow outwards from this rod. And this rod is made of not just calcium carbonate, but also protein as well. So it's quite a lot more flexible than you get with other corals.
That's true. So Pat, Kennedy Ann is asking, why do divers always keep their arms across their torso? And that's a really interesting question. So I'll help you out there. Normally it's for a number of reasons. One is to help us keep streamlined. We don't want our arms dangling down. Maybe Pat can show us how terrible it would look if the arms were dangling down.
Alright, so I'll show you two things that divers tend to do that I am also guilty of sometimes. So the first is letting your arms hang like that. So it looks a bit silly, and it can also hit things and bump into things and throw you off balance. Now, the other thing people tend to do is because they're used to swimming, is swim with their hands, which also looks a bit silly and also means that you can damage and bump into things. So it's always good to try and keep them crossed. Now, sometimes I will use my hands before, like when I went to move back. It's because I don't want to be kicking anything either. So in tricky situations, sometimes it's better to look a bit silly on camera and use my hands rather than kick something fragile like a coral or a sponge.
Exactly. So it helps us be more streamlined, which is really important in the marine environment. It's also for comfort. I find it really comfortable having my arms close to my chest. And also I get really cold, so it helps me keep that little bit warmer. So I hope that answers your question. So it just looks really beautiful, and right in front of the screen we can see a sponge, a red sponge. sponge, and the colour is really coming out there.
Yeah, that is a beautiful rope sponge.
It is. They do come in all different shapes and sizes, and believe it or not, this is actually an animal. So kind of just like coral, it really doesn't look like an animal. It's very primitive. It doesn't have any true organs or true tissue, but it is in fact a breathing animal. So you can see all those little holes, those little pores, they draw in the water. And they will push it out and they filter all the food from the water that they draw in.
Yeah, I know that you were really hoping to see some sponges today.
It was just so colourful, I couldn't help but not. Ooh,
what is this? This looks like...
So triggerfish. What species is that?
That's a queen triggerfish, but I think they're doing a mating dance right now.
A mating ritual, yeah. So right ahead of us we have 2 queen triggerfish, and they seem to be doing a little dance for the camera. So triggerfish are called triggerfish because they do have a little trigger on their head. So it's not up right now, we're not able to see it, but they do bring up this trigger, which is made up of 3 spines, and they use it to lock themselves in crevices at night time. They can also use it as a warning, especially the famous Titan triggerfish, to say stay away from me. But this species is the queen triggerfish. Really, really beautiful. And I think we just observed a male and a female getting ready to mate.
Yeah, did you see the dancing that they did?
Yeah, it all happened very fast, but we saw it.
Yeah, all of their movements were in perfect sync. I mean, it really was like they were dancing together. That was incredible.
Very romantic. Ellen is asking, how big are these triggerfish? Can you give us an estimate, Pat?
Sorry?
Can you give us an estimate on how big these 2 queen triggerfish are?
Yeah, so they were both about the same size. I would say about 50 centimetres long, so about 20 inches.
Quite big, and we can recognise them straight away because of the funny way that they swim. They don't really use their tail fin. They tend to undulate the top fin and the bottom fin, and now we have a hogfish.
Yeah, so this is very strange to see a hogfish here on the reef. Usually they tend to eat through the sand, and this is the first time I've ever seen a terminal hogfish.
So a terminal phase, what that means is that hogfish are part of the wrasse family, and that's wrasse as in W-R-A-S-S-E. And they're quite a well-known family on the reefs, and a lot of them are hermaphrodites. So they start off one sex, and throughout their life they change. Most commonly, they all start out as females, including the parrotfish actually, and they will change throughout their life into males. So this fish that you can see on the screen is a terminal male, which means it's made the change, it's in the end phase of its life, and we can tell this from the size and the coloration.
And you can see that it's got quite a lot of distinct markings on it. And I've never seen it before in this phase, and I think this is absolutely beautiful.
It really is. It's a wonderful fish. And it's putting on quite a show for us.
Yeah. It's saying, hey guys, look how cool I look now.
Hogfish are actually the biggest fish in the wrasse family, so they're the ones that get the biggest. So Pat, you can't possibly find anything else.
I don't know, the dive's not over yet, so I've still got about 80 bar left.
Me and Simone are very jealous here right now.
Sorry girls, you'll get your chance. So now that I am running a bit lower on air, I'm going to head in a little bit shallower. So now we're kind of sitting on the crest of the reef. But a lot of times during the evening, this part is also very, very productive. So I'm still hoping that we can find some more exciting things for you all.
Yeah, and when the camera was on Pat, you can actually see little things floating by. It almost looks like snowflakes in the water. floating towards the camera. This is actually plankton. So it's microscopic animals, including shrimps, crabs, jellies, larvae of different fish species, all floating about in the water, and they're moving with the current, in case anyone was wondering what that is.
So, we have found here a nest of sergeant major eggs.
Oh yes, the sergeant. Oh, we can see that. The big purple circle on the sandy bottom is quite bright, and we won't get too close as we don't want to disturb the nest. But this is the sergeant major nest. So maybe if Emil puts the camera up so we can see the sergeant majors. These fish belong to the damselfish family, and they are very territorial, and they can be really aggressive. They take great care in their nests. A lot of paternal care there, and they normally don't let you get this close. So Emil, let's have a look for the sergeant major itself.
So we can see it here, and we know that it's the one guarding the nest because it's got like a very bluish tinge to it. And now it is believed that that is because they rub on these purple eggs so much that some of the colour of the eggs start to rub off onto the male and give it a darker colour. So if you see a bluish sergeant major, you can pretty much know that it's guarding a patch of eggs, which is how I found this one. I saw a blue sergeant major and looked down underneath, and sure enough, there was a patch of eggs.
Yeah, they're very easy to identify with the black bars going down their body. And normally the colour is slightly yellowy and silvery, but like Pat mentioned, this one is very blue because it is guarding its eggs. They will aerate the eggs, they will keep watch over them, and they will even pluck out dead eggs or any algae or parasites that might come nearby.
Actually, we're seeing this right now with this sergeant major, so if we sit on it a little bit, might go back to it. It was running some air over its little egg patch there.
For such a small fish, they've got really big personalities. And actually, clownfish, including Nemo, the famous Nemo, is a part of this family of the damselfishes. So we'll let that sergeant major go look after his eggs.
Yes, let's see what else I can find down here.
Pat, Noelle is asking, is the sergeant major the only fish that makes a nest of eggs?
The only one I know of on this reef that actually attaches its eggs to a substrate. I know in different places of the world there are fish such as clownfish that also will lay their eggs onto something, and then a male will come and fertilise it with their sperm. So I believe sergeant majors are the only ones on this reef.
Well, actually, it's very common for the smaller fish, the smaller reef fishies, to be egg layers. So it's quite common, like Pat mentioned, for them to lay eggs to be fertilised. When you get to the bigger reef fish, most of them are spawners, which mean they both release the eggs and sperm into the water column together. However, the triggerfish, the one we saw earlier, that family is really famous for laying eggs, which is quite unusual for the larger reef fish, and they do fiercely protect their eggs as well.
Now, I'm just seeing a silhouette off in the distance, and it's looking like it may be a turtle, so I'll go
Patrick.
I'm not sure though, it is quite a way away. Oh no, don't worry, it was a triggerfish swimming. It was kind of side on, so.
Yeah, we can really see that there is a little current today and lots of plankton floating by, which is perfect, as plankton is the food source of many of the fish and many animals that live there, so they will all be happy and feeding. There's lots of plankton.
Yeah, although the current does make it a little bit tricky for us as divers, it's usually always worth it. So if I sat here like this, you can see that it's kind of pulling me across a little bit, so That's the movement of the current.
Was it a turtle, or are you not sure?
No, it wasn't. It was a triggerfish. So they swim with these undulating fins, and it looked, from the angle I was at, like a turtle.
Oh, well, maybe you've had enough luck for today.
Yeah, it's been an epic dive.
I did see a schoolmaster snapper earlier, but I think that may have moved on.
Yeah, there's actually been quite a few snapper. When we were having a look at that Stingray, there was a really, really big one, like I reckon a metre plus, but I think that has moved away in the excitement of the Stingray.
The excitement of the whole dive.
Yeah.
So what's your depth now then, Pat? We know that you came shallower from the sandy patch at the beginning, but can you share with us how deep you are now?
Yeah, so I am at 8 metres depth, so just a little bit over 20-25 feet, but I also am at 60 bar, which means it's time to end the dive. But thank you all for joining me today. This was a great dive. I hope everyone watching along enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for more diving. Thank you, Emil. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pat.